Okay, so this is day 3 of coping with the holidays, and I wanted to call this one How to Teach People How to Treat You. So if you're listening and want to give me what you are coping with the holidays, I definitely want to hear from you. And this one about teaching people how to treat you, I think is really important because often at the holidays we have to spend some time with people that may not be our favorite people or the people that treat us the way that we want to. And I keep remembering this word that somebody shared with me, forced time with family. So whether it's forced time with family or somebody else that doesn't always treat you the way that you want to be treated, I wanted to talk about how healthy boundaries or loving boundaries, as one of my coaches once used the word loving boundaries to talk with me about it, is one of the ways that we can teach people how to treat us. So my coach, Cora Poage, actually gave me this great word of loving boundaries, and I really like that word because it's acknowledging that when we're not setting boundaries, we're usually not being that assertive. And what we're not asserting is we're not asserting how we want to be treated. And when we're not asserting how we want to be treated, we are either being passive or we're being aggressive in getting our need met. And so the passive way of getting our need met might be, like just cutting somebody off or not communicating with them. And then also like not communicating when you do ghost on them or stop talking to them, not communicating with them that you're even doing that in the first place, which is I guess where we get the word ghosting, or saying that you're, I've used this word before, being the bigger person while you let them say things to you that you don't like, or do things that bother you, and you just say that you're being the bigger person by not saying anything. And the other way is that's another way of saying that you kind of go along with things and or give in to things that aren't really the way that you want. And these are all ways of being passive about getting or addressing a need. And then on the other extreme of that, we have aggressiveness, which is getting your needs met at the expense of somebody else, or getting your needs met in a way that hurts someone else or put someone else down. And aggressive ways of getting a need met are by, getting upset, yelling, becoming angry. I think that a really common one is a lot of times if we're angry about something, or if we've just done a lot of like pushing something down, we've bottled something up, we've been the bigger person time and time again, it just like bottles up inside of you. And then until at one point it just like explodes, and by the time it comes out, it's like now you're really upset. Now you like really just told someone off, or you told them like everything that you have been thinking and holding in for the last 10 years. So, or that's all an example of aggressiveness. It maybe started as passivity, but then it like showed up as aggressiveness, like that spilling out of bottled up emotion. Sometimes aggressiveness looks like arguing. So I wanted to talk about what the balance is between those two things, passivity and aggressiveness. And what's in between those things is not only assertiveness, but it's asserting yourself through the path of compassion and through loving boundaries. So specifically, I'm going to talk about loving boundaries today. And so understanding that when you set a boundary with someone, and you're just basically saying, like, for example, with forced time with family or forced time with anyone, like spending time with anyone where you don't really want to be spending the time with them or doing that, know that you can always say no. And I think people almost always know that they can say no. It's just that they're afraid of the consequence of what that would be if they did say no. So I just want to remind us all that saying no is a healthy part of being in a relationship. And just as people have said no to you before and you probably managed it and you still continue to be in that relationship and you understood, it's the same thing, that if you say no to others, they will also, or they should also, if they're a good friend or a good relationship or caring relationship, they should also understand. So you can just say no, and often we exaggerate the consequences of what is going to happen when we say no. So remember to think about it realistically in terms of what you think is going to happen, what is actually going to happen if you say no. The other thing is that there is a tactful way to say no. So again, finding that boundary between not saying no at all, which is passive, and saying no in an aggressive way, like I never want to see you again, and this is everything that's wrong with you and what I don't like about you and what I've been holding inside for the last 18 months about what you did. There is a nice way to say no, such as being able to say, no, I don't want to spend the holiday at your party. And then instead of saying because you're an asshole, saying something like what your intention is about how you'd like to be spending the time, such as I'm not going to be able to make it to your, I'm not going to make it, you don't say I'm not going to be able to. More assertive communication is I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to come to your holiday party. And then the expression of your intention of how you want to be spending the time, which is, I am choosing to spend this holiday with some really close friends, or just a few friends, or I'm really focusing this holiday on working on some specific projects that I've gotten behind on, or I'm really focusing on spending the holiday on creating my intention for my new year, or for taking some time for self-care. Whatever it is that your intention is, know that it's valuable and it's valid, and it's enough for you to just say that that's what it is. You don't have to make up a lie. You don't have to make up some excuse. Whatever you're doing is enough, and it's valid for you to be able to do that instead of the thing that you don't want to do. And then third, we always have we have two families. We have a family that we were born into, and everybody has a family that they choose. So know that when you think about how you're choosing and being intentional about how you choose your time, that you always have choices about who you spend your time with. And I know that often I hear people say that they feel like they don't have anybody. Sometimes I hear people say that, or they don't have people that they want to be spending time with. And I think that often when I hear that from people, that they are choosing to spend time, more of their time, with people that drain them, and not spending enough time with people that actually nurture them. So recognizing your choice in who you spend time with, and not just cluttering your connections with people that drain you and bring you down, even if that means limited time with our chosen family. And then I would say that if you do choose to say no to family or people that are accustomed to having you around, that the difference between setting a boundary and being either passive aggressive could be the difference between just setting a boundary through your behavior, which is like not showing up or not answering someone's invitation to you. That's kind of like it's a passive boundary. And like I said earlier, that boundaries are supposed to be the way that we teach people how to treat us. And if you're setting a boundary, but you're not communicating to the person that you're actually setting a boundary, sometimes they may miss it, or they may not know that that's what you're doing. They may think that you're, kind of flaking, or that you're just blowing them off. And so if you really want to teach people how to treat you, you have to not just set the boundary with your words or behavior, but you have to set the boundary with both your words and your behavior. So if you say that, this, relationship isn't that fulfilling to you, and you're maybe talking about that to other people or recognizing it to yourself, then you also need to recognize that in your behavior by perhaps creating some space in the relationship. And if you create space in a relationship and, people are asking you like, oh, hey, we haven't seen you around, like, what's going on? Don't make excuses. Maybe consider not making excuses like, oh, it's not you, it's me. But being able to say like, hey, yeah, you're right, I haven't been around. And that's because I haven't been really feeling that energized, or I haven't been really feeling that supported, or I haven't been having that much fun when we do hang out together. So I've just chose to make different decisions. So that's a totally, it might get the conversation going a little bit, but it's an authentic communication, and it invites somebody else to participate in that and say like, hey, well, like, what's going on, and maybe what can I do differently? So it creates opportunity for connection and not just the burning of a bridge. So that's the other thing. If you do choose to say no, but you're still open to having the relationship, or want to perhaps see if there's a possibility to nurture a different type of relationship. And then if you do choose to spend time with people that, you don't necessarily have the greatest time with, or that can kind of drain you, or maybe have like a toxic dynamic with, I'm going to give you some tips about how to set some interpersonal boundaries that don't necessarily need to be communicated, but these are some boundaries that you can set within yourself in terms of how much you allow yourself to take in from what other people are giving you. And these are really great for those empaths out there who can actually feel things when people are saying them. They can actually feel them in their body. So the first one is that you can choose who you spend time with, as I've just said in the first 5 tips. You can choose where you spend time with people. You can choose how much time you spend. So there's some places, like you may not want to, go to somebody's house, but you may say, hey, like, let's get coffee, or let's meet at a restaurant, let's meet at this public place, which can also set parameters on the type of interaction that you have. You can also choose how much you pay attention and how much you choose to listen. Or I say, I had a friend once that I had a toxic relationship with, and I decided to myself that even though I'm an awesome listener, normally I can listen like very fully, very attentively, like I can give 100% to people, I hope. Being a therapist, that I can listen pretty well, but I can listen really well. But I decided that this friend, who was no longer my friend, did not deserve 100% of my attention. In fact, I decided that she deserved about 20% of my attention in our conversations. And she actually noticed that I was giving her about 20%, and she called me out on it. And I told her, hey, like I've decided that you get 20%. Like that's what really feels, authentic for me to be able to offer, and that's what I can offer. And then like shortly thereafter, me setting those boundaries, the relationship dissolved. So you can choose, and hopefully it could go differently based on your intention. You can choose how much time, how much attention, and where you spend, and how much time you spend with people. And then the other thing is that if you're at a event with a lot of people, even if somebody wants to give you a lot of time and energy, you can choose, there's other people that you can kind of mix it up with. So you don't have to just spend all of your time talking to people that, are that you're like doing, like you have like a difficult relationship with. Like, spend some time talking to like your like, your distant cousin who you're not that close with, or spend some time talking to a baby, or hey, Michelle, glad you're just on here now. I was just thinking about you because I was talking about people that are empaths. So would love your feedback about that. Anyways, I was saying that you can manage the energy that you have and you're receiving from people by who you talk to. So, switch it up, talk to different people at the party or at the event. Kids, you can talk to different family members. You could talk to the animals that are there. You can just take some space in a room and like kind of sit with yourself, or like take a break outside. But one of the most important things for empaths, I think, because like I said, that we can take on the energy of people that we're talking to, is to actually look at how you're physically placing yourself when you're talking to someone. So if you are talking to someone and they're kind of saying something that's toxic to you, and funny, like I have a shirt on that says blessed. So this is a good shirt to wear for a toxic situation. So like literally, if somebody's saying something that you don't want to hear and you're standing there, right, like with your heart open, like facing them, it's literally like going right into your heart. So it's easier for you to internalize things when you're facing someone directly on. So something that you're not really feeling, it's not really something that you want to hear, you can actually turn your body like this to the side, so they're like talking to your shoulder, and that actually makes a big difference because you're not actually letting it directly into your body. So notice how significant that is, turning your body to someone, like not looking at them. You can even start to turn away, walk away. Those kinds of physical boundaries can really help to allow you to maintain a boundary between your own sphere inside of yourself and what you allow to come in. Yeah, so Michelle, you just shared that you do that. So I'm happy to hear that, and I would love to hear what else you all are doing to cope with the holidays and what you're coping with in general. Thanks so much for listening and joining me today. And I think I'll be back tomorrow. So if you all want to hear about some skills or some strategies, or just tell me how you're dealing with the holidays, I'd love to hear from you. And so I will look forward to seeing you all then. Good night.